What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Best Effin' Fantasy Show.
I think we need shots.
It's that kind of week here in the NFL. Week 4 coming at you live from the basement as always. I'm your host Steve Albertini, joined by my
angry cast
of my senior analysts Carmen Del Mastro and Jerry Procopio. My producer, Nick Speckett, in the building.
Senior producer.
Week 4 in the NFL. A couple bye weeks for the first time this year. Carolina and the Green Bay Packers are on bye this week. So if you have Cam Newton, Aaron Rodgers, Jordy Nelson, Steve Smith in your lineup, be sure to get them out and find an ample replacement. Before we get into the matchups this week, please follow us on Twitter at BestEffinShow. Check out the website, besteffinfantasyshow.com. It's where you can find all our rankings, our podcasts, some cool articles, a lot of good stuff for you guys all throughout the season. We're going to dive right into it. St. Louis faces the 49ers this week in a battle of 1 and 2 NFC West foes. The 49ers coming off a tough loss to the Indianapolis Colts, and the St. Louis got absolutely obliterated. The St. Louis Rams got absolutely obliterated in Dallas. First for the Rams, Darryl Richardson had a nagging foot injury last week. Played the first play this week and then was a disappearing act the rest of the game. Isaiah P came in, caught a couple balls, 7 to be exact. So maybe if you are a Richardson owner and you're in a deep PPR league, maybe Isaiah P'd. I don't know. We can get into that.
My favorite running back, Darryl Richardson.
Not a great start for the St. Louis run game. However, really want to get into is the 49ers, who coming off the last 2 weeks against Seattle and Indianapolis. Haven't been great on offense. They did start to move the ball via the run game last week. Frank Gore had a nice day until they decided to stop giving him the ball. Carm, with your West Coast perspective.
I don't see why you have to direct that question towards me, Steve.
Well, listen, I would fully expect if you were asking the questions and then we got to the next matchup, which is the reeling Eagles, I fully expected you to direct that question towards me. So, dead on. So, with your perspective, I want to know, A, these two games, is Colin Kaepernick who we saw in week 1, or is he who we've seen in the last 2 weeks, first of all?
In my opinion, Colin Kaepernick is the guy who we saw last year. In my thoughts and, seeing how they've been playing this year, it's kind of like they're trying to prove a point that they're trying to just pass more, be a pass-first offense. That's not the kind of team they were. 2 years ago, even with Alex Smith as the quarterback, they were a run-first team. That's what got them to the NFC Championship game, running the ball. That's what Alex Smith did so well. That's why he thrived in that offense. That's why he's still doing a good job in Kansas City. But in terms of Colin Kaepernick, okay, yes, he can throw from the pocket, but they're getting away from the run game. That's why you saw Frank Gore on the sideline arguing with Harbaugh. Mm-hmm. He only had 3 carries in the second half of the game. He needs to touch the ball more. I said last week Kendall Hunter was going to have a more expanded role in the offense. He scored this past week, but we get away from the run game. Maybe LaMichael James gets back into the action this week. He's probably going to play. You get Vernon Davis back in the lineup this week, hopefully, and we see a little bit better San Francisco 49ers offense, maybe a little bit what we're accustomed to seeing, not so much of the point that they're trying to, all right, we're going to throw the ball, we're going to adapt to this new wave-style offense, we're going to throw the ball 40 times a game. No, run the ball.
I'm sorry, should Kaepernick owners be worried? Or should they start him?
I'm not worried yet.
No? Keep him started? Okay.
See, I'm glad you brought that up, because what I think a lot of people are forgetting is, all the Kaepernick haters, and there are a bunch of Kaepernick haters for whatever reason, they, they're all coming out of the woodwork after these last 2 games saying, last year was a fluke and blah, blah, blah. But what they don't understand is Anquan Boldin was brought in to be an ancillary member of the offense. He wasn't meant to be the focal point of the offense.
He's not meant to be the guy. He's supposed to be the complement to Michael Crabtree and to help that run game flourish.
Sure.
They're not doing.
They're missing. Last week, Vernon Davis didn't play. Status is still unclear for this week, but hopefully he can get ready for the Thursday night game. But it's 50-50 right now. Michael Crabtree's out. Mario Manningham's still out for a while. So this is not the offense that they expected to put on the field. So you can't expect, phenomenal results every week.
Kyle Williams is not a good wide receiver.
No.
I've been saying it for 2 years. Maybe it's because I still have ill will about his fumbles in the NFC Championship game.
It's understandable.
But still, he's still not a good NFL receiver. He's not a guy who's going to produce in the league at a high level. I mean, John Baldwin, maybe he gets some playing time this week. It remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, you take away... Well, obviously you take away Crabtree with his injury. You take away Manningham. You take away Randy Moss, who was there last year. Veteran guys who know how to contribute, and they shouldn't be surprised that there's a little bit of a drop off.
I would still like to see Quentin Patton a little more involved in the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Moving on to the next game, the Philadelphia Eagles travel to Denver to take on Peyton Manning and his high-flying Broncos offense. I refuse to say the Eagles are a high-flying offense, especially when they're playing Denver, when Denver is the true high-flying offense. 127 points in 3 weeks. The over-under on this game, I believe, is at like 58 or 59, which is pretty incredible. Jared, I want to ask you, we're going to start everyone we would normally start in this game.
Oh, you have to.
Is there anyone in particular that you think is, going to stand out for one reason or another? Either is going to have an incredible game that we're not expecting, or maybe is going to have a little bit of a dud of a game that maybe we're not expecting? Because we think it's overs all day. It's going to be a crazy offensive display.
This is going to be a very high-scoring game. The Broncos are going to put 30 points on the board by the half. Eagles are going to be catching up all game. A guy that jumped out at me last week, Jason Avant, had 5 for 87 and a touchdown last week. I think he's going to have a lot of garbage time this week, especially with Jackson on the other side. He might be a guy if you got like Steve Smith on a bye, or you need a nice wide receiver fill in this week. Jason Avant makes a sneaky pickup this week.
Yeah, Riley Cooper really did nothing to help his cause last week. Couldn't get separation for anything. And Jason Avant did step up and have a nice little game. But adjust accordingly. If you're in a deeper league, Avant could be a decent play for you.
Right.
We're not suggesting that if everyone go out and run and pick up Jason Avant, depending on your needs. Baltimore travels to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Baltimore had a nice win against the Texans this week. Ray Rice, his status still up in the air this week.
Yeah, still unclear. Bernard Pierce has another game where he should get the bulk of the carries. Buffalo defense, they gave up 149 to Bilal Powell last week. Bernard Pierce should have a huge game if Rice is out.
Nothing wrong with Bilal Powell. Just saying.
No.
Just saying.
Really.
Throwing that out there.
C.J. Spiller got hurt last week, had to leave the game, did not re-enter. It looks like all systems are go for him to come back this week, but proceed with caution. Cincinnati and Cleveland square off in a matchup of AFC North foes. Cleveland, who everyone wrote off last week after they traded Trent Richardson, had a really nice win in Minneapolis against the Vikings. Jordan Cameron was one of the big guys that day, along with Josh Gordon and Brian Hoyer. Now, what I want to ask you guys is, between Cameron, Gordon, and Hoyer, because this looks like going forward, this is going to be the triumvirate offensively for the Browns. Out of these three guys, whose production is going to be sustainable throughout the year? Like we've seen, I think we've seen enough of Cameron where we think that we're confident that he's a tight end one the rest of the year. But out of all three of these guys, this new look offense for the Browns, who do we see as being sustainable throughout the season?
Well, Hoyer, you don't know if he's going to keep a starting job. They're saying Whedon might stay on the bench if Hoyer keeps performing like he is. So I mean it still remains to be seen. I would think once Whedon gets fully healthy, they might give him another chance, so Hoyer might go back to the bench.
What about Josh Gordon?
I'm a huge fan of Josh Gordon, and if the rumors are true for them actually trying to trade him, every GM in the NFL should be calling the Cleveland Browns trying to acquire that guy. He's a future star in the league, if not a star now for that team. I think both guys moving forward, they're definitely top fantasy plays for the rest of the year.
And Josh Gordon, You're right about that report. There's a lot of teams that have inquired already about Josh Gordon. The Lions, who we'll get into in a little bit. I've also heard New England and San Francisco as well. But going forward, actually, you know what? We'll move right into that Detroit matchup. Chicago takes on Detroit. First of all, are we going to see Reggie Bush back this week?
Yeah, they're saying they're expected to have him back this week. I mean, I'm hoping he stays in the whole game. I have him on like every team.
We got the unfortunate news today that Nate Burleson got into a car accident late last night. Broke his arm, is going to be out for the foreseeable future. Jared, who's the guy to pick up there?
Obviously, Ryan Broyles. He stepped in last week. They activated him. He came in. He made some nice plays. They have no choice but he's going to get a lot of targets, especially in that offense.
The 0-3 Giants, who looked awful in Carolina last week, losing 38-0 to the previously winless Panthers, travel to Kansas City to take on the Kansas City Chiefs, who are riding high at 3-0 after a emotional win last week in Philadelphia and Andy Reid's return. Guys, I'm just going to make it an open-ended question. Jump in wherever you want. What do we make of this Giants offense from a fantasy perspective? Who has any sort of value going forward, and like what can we expect in the coming weeks in the short term?
Right now, the only people I trust on that offense are Victor Cruz and Brandon Myers. That's it. That's all I'm saying. Hakeem Nicks is inconsistent, gets hurt. David Wilson, you can't trust. He's got the talent, but you can't trust him. You can't start him.
David Wilson needs to be the guy in that backfield. 100%.
He has to be. He has to
I don't care how many times he fumbles the ball. He needs to be the guy. Tom Coughlin has to stop with his ego about, oh, he's going to fumble once. No, he's got to be the guy. I don't care. He's your best back. Give him the ball. Create opportunities for him in space. Create screens, bubble screens. Give him the ball. Get that man going, because once his confidence starts building, then you're going to see David Wilson start to explode. He has to be in the lineup, and he's not going to produce. He's not going to shake the fumbling calls if he's sitting on the sideline only playing 26 snaps a game. Sorry, he has to be in the lineup.
Yeah, only 11 carries last week. I mean, it was a blowout situation, but still a guy that has ball security issues. That was a perfect game to just give him a ton of touches, to get accustomed to being hit in the game.
And there were plenty of times in that game when he was open in the flat and Eli Manning didn't even give him a sniff. So.
Sure. And he actually did have a touchdown that was called back
Yeah,
due to a penalty, but it's been a inauspicious start for Wilson these first 3 weeks, to say the least.
Yeah, how about Dwayne Bowe?
Yeah.
How about Dwayne Bowe? Jared, what do you got on him?
I don't know. All I got to say is for owners to just stay patient. That's all I'm going to say. Or, I mean, like, I still like Bowe in this West Coast offense, but he's not doing nearly what I thought he would be doing. But
He got that huge contract. He's not doing anything. Do you bench Dwayne Bowe going forward, or do you have to start him?
you got to start him. He's got the potential to blow up any week. So
What about Donnie Avery? Is he a guy you want to start, or is this
Donnie
or
Avery.
is that the
no.
fluke because the Eagles can stop on
Because the
play?
Eagles create a new Jerry Rice every week, so
Yep.
Yeah, Eddie Royale. Now this guy, you're right.
now this guy.
If you're a slot receiver, play against the Eagles, and you'll probably get a new contract after the game.
Run a drag route.
That's it. That's all it takes.
Decker.
Pittsburgh travels to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. Antonio Brown had a breakout game on Sunday night against the Bears.
One-handed catch touchdowns.
Beautiful
Yep.
catch. But Jay Glazer reported from Fox Sports that Le'Veon Bell could be in line to come back this week. Thoughts on Bell coming in week 4 against that Minnesota defense?
I don't think they're going to give him a full workload. I think they're going to ease him in, maybe give him like 20 to 30 snaps tops. But if they do, like I don't know if I have the confidence to start him just yet. I would still wait and see what they're going to do.
Anybody other than Adrian Peterson worth a flyer in this matchup for the Vikings?
If you got Greg Olson on bye, I would say just Kyle Rudolph. That's it.
Is Greg Jennings still in the league?
He's there.
He had 2 catches, I think, last week.
He's there. He's there.
He's there somewhere.
But none of the receivers on Minnesota are worth relying on.
A lot of money going his way.
He's lost in the sea of purple. Arizona takes on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. There was some concern. Vincent Jackson left last week's game against the Patriots with a rib injury. Ribs are not broken, so he should be good to go. But obviously, if you're a Jackson owner, something to keep your eye on. Josh Freeman in a contract year has been nothing short of awful. Is there a chance that he gets benched at some point here?
I wouldn't be surprised. They like the rookie they were in,
Mike Glennon.
Mike Glennon. So I mean, I
There's really
wouldn't.
nothing to talk
I
about.
wouldn't be surprised. The only guy that's besides
talk about it.
Doug Martin, Mike Williams, and Vincent
Doug Martin,
Jackson.
you can't even do much with him either anymore.
That's it.
They just put 8 in the box and it's over.
Yeah.
In a AFC South matchup, Indianapolis takes on the Jacksonville Jaguars, who did not cover the 20-point spread in Seattle last week, shockingly. T. Rich full go this week for the Colts after a small workload last week against San Francisco.
I don't know. Almon Bradshaw really showed what he could
looked
do.
good.
Probably just trying to prove himself that, we didn't need Richardson. But who knows? I would think Richardson's going to get a slightly higher workload than Bradshaw because he's clearly the better player.
This week, or obviously we know going forward
Right.
that's going to be the case, but this week we still think Richardson will get more touches?
Yeah, I think the Richardson-Bradshaw timeshare will go more towards 50-50. Richardson getting a slight higher workload.
Okay, and for Jacksonville, Justin Blackman's still a week away.
Mm-hmm.
Cecil Shorts put up some nice garbage time production last
Garbage
week,
man.
which we love. 8 for 143. It all counts the same, whether or not you win the game or you lose by 30. Speaking of which, Seattle, fresh off that trouncing of the Jaguars, travels to Houston to take on the Texans. Andre Johnson hurt again. Anyone surprised? Anyone?
He's still elite.
Crickets.
He's still elite.
Crickets. Question I want to pose to you guys is, if you're an Arian Foster owner, what's kind of like your game plan with him going forward, and what are your realistic expectations of his going forward? Because I would have to think that you're still not expecting, at this point, you're not expecting top 5 fantasy production like you may have been a month ago.
No, well, I mean, coming into the season, he kind of slipped down the draft board a little bit because he was out the whole preseason. He was hurt a little bit. They were saying Ben Tate's going to move towards, he was going to get a higher workload like he did in 2011. Arian Foster is a guy you can't really rely on this year to be a running back one.
And that's from the Arian Foster analysis.
Contingent of
So are you telling fantasy owners to sit Foster?
I'm not telling him to sit him, but
Just lower your
if you have him,
expectations.
you can't expect what you saw in the past is 25-point games. You're not going to get that this
And
year.
that'll do it for Arian Foster.
That's
Good 2 to 3 years.
that's it.
He's gotten 50 carries in 3 games, 3.9 yards a carry, only 1 touchdown. I mean, a lot of people, we discussed it at certain points too, that there is going to be a drop off for Foster at some point after the heavy workload the last 3 years. So
Yeah, they shouldn't have done that.
not much of a surprise here, and I think Gary Kubiak has been adamant in the fact that Foster and Ben Tate will have a healthy split going forward.
Right.
So temper your expectations if you're a Foster owner and you took him, especially in the first half of the first round, or if you took him in the first round. The Jets and their suddenly potent offense travel to Tennessee, who came off a nice game-winning drive to beat the San Diego Chargers last week. Geno Smith over 300 yards last week. Stephen Hill and Santonio Holmes over 100 yards last week. Bilal Powell over 100 yards last week. What the fuck happened to the Jets? What happened?
Maybe they're taking some Adderall.
But seriously, is this like just one of those crazy weeks where they were matched up against divisional opponent and they just went at it and crazy things happened, or is this something that's sustainable and they're going to be able to put up points going forward?
Crazy points, I'm not sure, but staying in games, the defense is going to keep them in games. I think their defense finished in the top 10 this year. Easily finished in the top 10. That front 7 they have is very good. They have some solid help on the back end with those DBs and corners, or DBs and safety. So, Jets defense, sneaky pickup for some teams that are in need of a fantasy defense.
Yeah.
Probably out there on the waiver wire.
Jets defense played really well all year.
I know we had a lot of Chris Ivory lovers on this table. Firmly standing behind Bilal Powell. Looks like he's finally starting to rise to the top. So
I mean, Chris Ivory, before the season started,
so.
Chris Ivory was the only one that you would think had any value. That's it.
nah, I'm pretty sure Bilal Powell has some value.
Washington against Oakland in a battle of 0-3 squads. Alfred Morris or Darren McFadden, who has the better game this week?
The Redskins are smart.
2 suspect defenses.
Alfred Morris.
You know what? I'm going to say Darren McFadden.
If he's throwing.
Washington defense is awful.
Darren McFadden is awful. Darren McFadden's done.
Watch this.
He's washed up.
Darren McFadden has over 100 yards rushing this week.
How many
Betting
down
on
for
that?
Mars have?
What?
What's the wager on that?
Mars will have like 80.
What's the
Shave your
wager?
eyebrow.
What's the wager?
I can't shave my eyebrow.
Just saying, if Kaepernick did it,
Could trim it.
He didn't really do it. That was
he did
makeup.
it. It was not. It was real. It was real, brow.
Dallas travels to San Diego to take on the Chargers. Who has the better game this week, Tony Romo or Philip Rivers?
It's a tough one. I'm going to say Tony Romo because he's in a better offense, has better weapons around him.
New England travels to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Steven Jackson projected to still be out for another couple weeks, but reports say that Gronkowski could be back this week for the Patriots. Obviously, that's a big, a welcome addition for Tom Brady, wouldn't you say?
Oh, definitely.
All right.
Got anything to say?
Kenbrell Tompkins had 2 touchdowns last week. Was that just a fluke, or are we seeing him maybe establish some trust in one of the young guys?
Well, he only had 3 catches. Dobson had 7 catches, so it looks like these guys getting better catching the ball. So, but Gronkowski coming back, Brady's value only goes closer to that, back to that top 5 status, and Amendola should be coming back in another 2-3 weeks, hopefully.
I know before the show we were talking about Stephen Ridley. Should owners be concerned about him, or do they have to keep starting him, or it's just like he's done with?
You got to keep him in your lineup, but I mean, temper your expectations a little bit, but he should get back to where he used to be.
I think we've seen a little emergence of
Brandon Ball.
Shane Vereen Light and Brandon Bolden. Guys finally healed. Played 22 snaps less than Stephen Ridley this past weekend. Caught 5 passes, 40-some yards. So if Brandon Bolden is still available on your waiver wire, go out and get Brandon Bolden. One more fumble from Ridley, and then we see the same thing that happened with Vereen. Takes over for Ridley. Brandon Bolden, a guy that should be added on your fantasy rosters.
In the Monday night matchup, the 3-0 Dolphins take on the 3-0 Saints. Is Ryan Tannehill the real deal? Is he worthy of being placed in that discussion of the other stud rookie quarterbacks that were taken last year, some before him, some after him?
Yeah, I think Tannehill definitely got lost in the shuffle a bit with the emergence of the pistol offense last year and some of the rookies and second-year guys we saw emerge last year. Tannehill definitely got to stay in the pocket. He could throw it a mile. He's got some weapons on the outside now, Hartline, Wallace, and Charles Clay actually emerging this year. And if they can ever get Lamar Miller on pace to get a steady dosage of him in that backfield, actually move the chains a little more, then Ryan Tannehill is definitely a guy. I don't know if he's definitely a guy you add and you're starting. I don't think he's going to be on the fantasy radar, but in terms of a quarterback in the NFL, Tannehill looks like he has a bright future.
Yeah, if you're in a 2-quarterback league or a deeper league, he's definitely worth a look. I'm glad you brought up Charles Clay. Charles Clay worth a speculative ad if you're in a deep league or you need a backup tight end.
Oh yeah, definitely. Deeper leagues, yeah. Tight ends are deep this year, like we said the last couple of weeks. But Charles Clay is really emerging.
All right, guys, awesome stuff. We'll be back with our legends and jerkoffs for week 4. Welcome back, everybody, to the Best F Fantasy Show, Week 4 edition, live from the basement, 2013 season. Follow us on Twitter at BestFNShow. Check us out at bestfnfantasyshow.com. Due to the enormous success of our Power Bar sponsorship last week for the Who the F Is That Sleeper segment, we have a new sponsor for our entire Legends, Jerkoffs, and Sleeper segment. And it is American Formulator's Pure Deer Antler Velvet Extract, which is known to increase libido and enhance performance both in and out of the bedroom. 5 sprays, and that's all it takes. Jared, kick us off with your legends for Week 4.
Okay. We're going to go Darren McFadden. He's going to have the biggest game of the year this year. I know he's been doing awful. Washington defense is terrible, so you're going to get the best game out of him this year, this week. So, Bernard Pierce, Buffalo's defense, awful. Ray Rice doesn't look like he's going to play. Powell got 150 yards against them. Bernard Pierce could get over 100 yards and a touchdown easy.
You stole that right off my sheet.
Did I?
Yep.
It's okay.
Carry on.
All right, my next one, Antonio Gates. He went late in a lot of drafts, but he's been really good this year. I expect that trend to continue. That's it.
All right, I'm rolling. I have a common theme for my legends. Everyone, well, two guys that bitched, which we talked about, bitched at their quarterbacks, bitched at their coaches. We've seen it over the past couple weeks. You bitch, you play, you produce. Reoccurring theme here. We're going Frank Gore Thursday night against the Rams. He had a little spat on the sideline with Harbaugh on Sunday about his lack of carries. This week going against the Rams, who absolutely got dismantled by overrated DeMarco Murray. So, Frank Gore, legend, find the end zone twice this week on Thursday night. Now we're going with Hakeem Nicks, another guy complaining about his lack of touches in the offense at Kansas City. I look for Eli Manning to really target him in the offense. Then we're going to go with Andrew Luck at Jacksonville. Need I say more?
It's high science. It's like work with Mercury. You bitch, you produce the following week. Who are your jerk-offs for week 4?
All right, my first one, since Carm said Hakeem Nicks is going to have a great game, and I agree with that, I'm going to say Victor Cruz is another quiet week.
Oh.
Especially with the fact that Kansas City's defense has been really good. Eli's going to be under a lot of pressure. I just don't see Victor Cruz having a great game. My next one, Jordan Cameron. I know it's crazy, but Cincinnati's defense is pretty good. I think they're going to focus on him a little more. Cleveland doesn't have a running game. I think they're going to try to stop Jordan Cameron, probably their best weapon. So, we'll see. My last one, A.J. Green. One-on-one with Joe Hayden this week. I mean, I know A.J. Green usually gets the best of him, but I think this is the week where A.J. Green gets shut down.
Can't agree with you on that, Jer.
It's all right.
Can't agree with you. I'm going all running backs this week. We're going Marshawn Lynch at Houston. Didn't like what I saw out of Lynch last week. I know the game got out of hand early against Jacksonville, but still like to see your top running back in there getting some more carries, especially fantasy owners. We'd like to see our top guy in there producing. Marshawn Lynch at Houston this week. I'm putting the mush on TJ Spiller again this week, Steve. I'm sorry.
Appreciate that.
At Buffalo. Put the kibosh on him last week pretty good. Sorry he got injured, fantasy owners. But CJ Spiller again this week. Proceed with caution, especially with Fred Jackson reemerging in Buffalo. Then we're going Rashard Mendenhall, Jerry's new butt buddy this year. I see him having another subpar week, especially after Andre Ellington and Alfonso Smith getting some more touches in that offense. Jerry, I know you're shaking your head because you love Alfonso Smith. You got his poster up on your wall, I know. Then we're going with Stephen Ridley at Atlanta. Talked about Brandon Bolden. I see Brandon Bolden's role in the offense increasing this week. Steve?
That Alfonso Smith poster. What poster is right next to that?
Britney Spears. And Tom Brady's UGG collection.
Alright, it's time for your mom, your sister, your girlfriend, your grandmother's favorite segment, the Who the F is That Sleeper of the Week.
What about my granddad?
Nah, it's strictly for the ladies. Strictly for the ladies.
Oh.
Who the F is that sleeper? Give the people what they want.
Okay, I got 3 wideouts I want you to look at this week.
How close are we looking at them, Jer?
Pretty close.
Well, all right, Nate Burleson's done for the year. Ryan Broyles is going to step up. I'm going to look at another guy, Chris Durham. He's the next guy in line. So I see him doing something this week. My next one, Keenan Allen. His role in the offense is increasing a little bit. He's not getting that many targets, but his snap count's increasing, especially with how thin their wideout core is and how high scoring I think this Chargers-Cowboys game is going to be. I might be able to make a big play this week. And my last one, Bryce Butler, wideout for Oakland. Showed some flashes of big playability in the preseason. And Washington, their pass defense is awful. I think he's going to do something.
Insight. Top-notch insight, folks. You can't get that anywhere else. He's going to do it.
Watch this. Bryce Butler's going to score this week.
Bryce Butler's going to score this week, folks. Who are your Who the F is That sleepers for week 4?
Steve, I'm going since, Nostradamus himself, J-Pro, predicted a terrible game for A.J. Green. We're going Marvin Jones. Not Mohamed Sanu. Marvin Jones.
He's a friend of the program.
Absolutely. Respect, of course. But we're going Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones is a guy who could take the top off the defense. Browns have been giving up a number of passing yards to guys that are not matched up against Joe Hayden. So, Marvin Jones, take the top off the defense for me this week, buddy. And my other guy, we're going James Casey.
James Casey?
James Casey. I see the Eagles really trying to those 3 tight ends this week. They have to do it. In order for that high-flying offense to get going, Chip Kelly and his love for tight ends, they need to get those 3 guys going. There's a reason why they brought James Casey. They drafted Ertz, and they have Selleck. James Casey, red zone opportunity, finds the end zone this week.
Fantastic. I'm going to pass it along to our producer, Nick Specca, who has a plethora of questions from the Twitter board tonight.
Our first question comes from at KGB0HSnap. He says, what kind of wide receiver do you think I could expect in return for Matthews and Hakeem Nicks combo? It's a half a point per reception league.
What up, Ken Black?
Kenna.
Oh, hello.
So he's just saying like what kind of value he would get for.
Yeah, like what could a proposal of Nicks and Matthews in a half PPR league realistically fetch you?
I think at this point you're looking at a guy like a Cecil Shorts type receiver.
Maybe a Josh Gordon.
Josh Gordon, Cecil Shorts. Cecil Shorts, a guy that's going to produce not when the game's on the or not when the game like really matters, but in terms of fantasy, he's going to get you 7-8 catches a week. But right now for those two, I would probably hold on to Nicks just right now. See what he does this week against the Chiefs. Ryan Matthews as a flex play, I would probably try and shop him, but in reality, who's going to actually take him for a low-end 3 receiver? That's where you're going to probably try and get. You're going to get a low-end 3, probably a guy you could fill in on a bye week waiver wire. So,
Sorry, Ken.
I'm sorry to upset you, Mr. Black, but
Ken, we love you.
I think you could probably acquire a Cecil Shorts type receiver.
Yeah.
But like a Dwayne Bowe, you think of Dwayne Bowe?
Well,
Or is Dwayne Bowe lesser than Nicks at this point?
Here's the thing. Go out and offer that trade to your David Wilson owner in your league. A David Wilson and then a low-tier
wideout,
and see what they say back to you.
Right.
And then just, go back and
That's a
forth from
good call,
that.
because that guy's probably given up on Wilson and ready to get rid of him.
The guy who has a higher ceiling than Matthews, and if he gets that one run, cha.
Cha-cha. Speaking of Cha, our next question comes from at Chop Lamb, and he wants to know who should he start this week, Golden Tate or DeAndre Hopkins?
Jerry, it's all you.
It's a PPR league.
It's a PPR league.
I'm going DeAndre Hopkins.
DeAndre Hopkins without blinking.
You don't even blink, do you?
You don't. Oh, look, it's a big one.
All right, I'll go DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh, way to rebuttal.
Very
Way to
good.
fight. Before you had big balls about Golden Tate. You
DeAndre
dipped your
Hopkins.
balls in
DeAndre
gold.
Hopkins is better.
You dipped your balls in some gold.
Well, realistic, and even with, we don't know Andre Johnson's status 100%, DeAndre Hopkins definitely the better play this week.
Our next question comes from at Smoking Some Ganja, and he wants to know Pede, Bolden, or Thomas as a waiver wire pickup going forward.
All right, I'll take this one.
Sure, Smokey.
I'm assuming he's asking about Brandon Bolden, not Anquan Bolden.
No.
So, my personal opinion, I'm going to go Brandon Bolden. Shane Vereen's still out for another 8 weeks or so, 6 to 8 weeks. Isaiah Pede, I mean, he's tied to Darrell Richardson and his foot, but they throw the ball a ton. New England's going to want to run the ball. It will be by committee, but Brandon Bolden will get some touches, and he will get passes out of the backfield in Vereen's absence. So, me personally, I'll go Bolden.
I'm going to go with Bolden also. I'm not a huge fan of anyone in the St. Louis Rams backfield until they promote my man Zach Stacy in the starting lineup. So,
Yep, I agree with that too. Bolden has the best chance to get production.
There you go, Drew.
Smokey. Our next question comes from at Turk Jr. He wants to know, it's a shame is a real question, but who would you rather have for the rest of the year? Bernard Pierce or Ryan the Stiff Matthews?
Well, I think both guys are going to be in a somewhat of a timeshare going forward, even Matthews. So I would take Pierce. Even when Rice comes back, I would take Pierce.
Oh yeah, 100%. Pierce has they want to give him a bigger role in the offense, so I think Pierce is the guy.
Excellent job as always.
All
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in this week. We'll see you next week. Good luck.